I'm Joe from As the Joe Flies.
And I'm Leslie from Trips with Tykes.
And welcome back to Disney Deciphered. So I'm back from my summer vacations. Leslie's about to start her second summer vacation because that's how we do it here. But we're here to record, talk a little bit about my trips. We're going to split it up into 2 episodes. I spent a few days at Disney World at the Beach Club with just my son. And then we went down to Fort Lauderdale, caught the Disney magic for a 5-night cruise and visited the new Lookout Key. That was with my whole family and some friends. So we'll do this episode on Disney World, just a little bit of a trip report, and then we're going to talk about why summer is definitely moving up the times to go rankings, for me at least, in Disney World. So we're going to talk about that. And then in the next episode, we'll talk about cruising a little bit. But before we get to that, Leslie, we have not recorded for a while, so we do have some new Patreon subscribers to thank. So who do we got?
So we're thanking new Patreon supporters, Ray M. and Maria. Thanks so much for supporting the podcast. If you want to support the podcast as well, you can go to patreon.com/Disney Deciphered, where you'll get trip reports, ad-free episodes, membership in our Facebook group, lots of other little extras. So thank you again to everybody past and present who has supported.
Yes, thank you so much. And limited trip reports on this last trip, but hopefully those of you who heard them and enjoyed them. So wanted to talk really quickly before we talk about Disney in the summer, just about some of the new things that I tried. First and foremost, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Was going to try to ride it twice, Leslie, but only ended up riding it once. Now, tell me, have you watched ride-throughs of this? POV ride walkthroughs? I don't know. What are they called? POV ride videos.
Yeah, I've watched not like the entirety. I've watched bits and pieces here and there. I'm trying not to, I guess, spoil the entire thing, but it's still going to be a while probably till I get to ride. I probably will ride at Disneyland before I ride at Disney World is my guess. It looks great in places, but and I know it's been having some reliability issues. Is that why you didn't ride it a second time?
Yeah, that's correct. I virtual queued it the first time, and then I had a Genie Plus Lightning Lane for it. RIP Genie Plus today as we are recording. I'm trying not to get too distracted by the Lightning Lane multi. Yes, we figured it out. That's what Disney said in the video. Yes, trying not to get distracted by Lightning Lane multi-pass and failing. Yeah, so I had Genie Plus for it, but it went down and I ended up using that. I got a multiple experiences pass from that, and I used that to good effect for the rest of the day. So it has been having reliability issues. I will say when I went on, I guess like people know when there are certain animatronics not working or things like that. There was nothing obvious to me that wasn't working. And I will say, I don't want to spoil the attraction. It's too early. We'll do an eventual ride guide about it. But I really enjoyed the ride. Definitely there have been criticisms that the narrative tension that was there before, like as you're getting to the big drop, wasn't there as much. And that's definitely true. There's no one like trying to get Brer Rabbit or whatever, and there's no intensity there. But what has happened is it's kind of changed into this, I don't know how to say it. It's just like a happy ride, which when I think about it a little bit more, yes, the tension was cool narratively, but if you think about log flumes, like in general, usually they're just like fun rides to be on and you just kind of like enjoy them. And in that sense, Tiana's, it's just a real celebration of the movie, of Tiana, of her cooking, of New Orleans and the Bayou. And so I found it really enjoyable. So had a lot of fun. I would definitely want to ride it a few more times. I think I've said before, Splash Mountain was my favorite ride, or I guess it still is since it still exists in Tokyo. But, in the domestic parks, that was the ride that I always wanted to go on. I just love myself a good log flume, and happy to report I really enjoyed Tiana's. It was still a lot of fun. Definitely wanted to go on it again. Things didn't work out, and I could have gone again, but my son does not like log flumes, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to drag him on it twice.
So I have to ask, did the wetness factor change at all on the ride, or is it still exactly the same? Because that's the reason I never did splash that often, is I just don't like being wet in a theme park, like especially not the wet tennis shoes.
My tennis shoes didn't get wet, but we did end up in the first row, which my son was super excited about. I was soaked. I mean, we wore ponchos, but I was very wet. And luckily it was early in the day. It was time to dry off. But, if you want to get wet, I think it still fits the bill. And I I didn't worry too much about my shoes, and my shoes were okay. Which, yeah, I agree. That's kind of the worst part.
Yeah, no, that's why I don't do it. And maybe it's just also Disneyland's was always a shoe got wet more than anything. Maybe the older, like the different design of the flumes. We'll see how this shakes out. But that's what I loved about Splash Mountain at Tokyo Disney was it was just a mild splash. It was so Japanese in its splashiness.
Yeah, they just much more muted and calm than the American big splash. So, yeah, that was Tiana's. Another new thing I tried was I sat and ate at Beaches and Cream. Leslie, I don't think you've eaten there, but like, can you describe to people? Actually, I'm curious about this. Describe to people what you think Beaches and Cream is, because I think I knew what it was, but I don't think I exactly knew what I was getting into. Not in a bad way, but just, I hadn't paid too much attention to it.
I mean, I've walked by it a bazillion times, and I've stayed at Beach and Yacht, so many times as well, and just never have eaten there. But I mean, I think it's like ice cream parlor, but with like other like snack foods and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so I would say that's more like a Johnny Rockets. It's more like burgers and sandwiches. I knew that there was food. It was a fairly extensive menu. And just think old school by the beach burgers and shakes type place. And there's a lot of fancy shakes that you can get, ice cream, obviously. And so the menu was more extensive than I thought. We did walk up. I had a reservation, but it started raining, so I ended up signing up for a walk up instead, waited for about half an hour. And then, yeah, we went in, we got to sit at the counter. Sitting at the counter, which is where you will sit typically if you do a walk up, was pretty cool because we got to watch them making the ice cream. The kitchen sink is the famous ice cream. I knew the kitchen sink was a big deal. I didn't know how big a Disney deal it was. They have a physical, stainless steel or whatever sink, and they put a ton of ice cream in it. And then they put an entire can of whipped cream in it, Leslie, which I did not know, which it was too much. I don't like whipped cream. So that was just, but it looks like suds inside the kitchen sink. And then they put brownies on top of that. It's like a ton of food. And then, they serve it to your table. When I had been walking outside, there are like mini kitchen sinks, like literal MINNIE kitchen sinks, which are about a third of the ice cream. And people had been eating those, and those are souvenir buckets that people can take. I thought that was the kitchen sink. So when I went inside, I didn't even realize that there was this bigger kitchen sink. And so it was fun watching them make the kitchen sinks. The food was great. I had a French dip. My son had a burger. We really enjoyed our food. And then we had some ice cream. I mean, I was honestly too full for ice cream at the end, but we had some ice cream at the end. So it was great. It was a great experience. I get why people really enjoy it. Even outside of the ice cream, I thought the food was really good.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize it was as much of a restaurant as you are indicating. And if I had known that, I think maybe I would have taken my kids there more readily over the years. Although my son has a very big cheeseburger obsession. That is more recent years since it's been a while since he's been to Disney World. So next trip, but no kitchen sink. That just sounds disgusting.
It's
Disgusting.
just too much. I couldn't even imagine eating it with like 6 people. And then I feel like you can't ask for a kitchen sink without the whipped cream because they make such a big deal about it. Like they turn all the lights. I thought a fire alarm was going off. I said this in the trip report I did for Patreon, but I thought the fire alarm was going off, and I was like, oh, I guess the power went out because these lights started spinning. But no, it's because every time they serve a kitchen sink, it's this big to do, almost like Whispering Canyon, where people like everyone's into it, and they're like, oh, we used a whole can of whipped cream, and everyone's like, a whole can, right? And then they serve and it's just a big thing. Number one, way too much attention would have been brought to my table if we had ordered it. Number two, after I realized it was an entire can of whipped cream, I was like, oh man, they're just like, it's until there's nothing left coming out. And I was like, that is just too much. Didn't get a good picture of it. I'll post the picture that I had. I had to like zoom in the distance while they were making it. But yeah, too much ice cream. Other new thing that I tried was Hollywood and Vine character breakfast. Leslie, it was kind of bizarre. It was super empty. The food was fine. It was good. I didn't enjoy it as much as Crystal Palace, but it was good food. But there was like no one there. We could have seen the characters like 5 times if we wanted to in 40 minutes. But I would recommend. The cast member told me that Saturdays have been really light crowds there. I don't know if that's just a summer thing, but if you're looking for a character breakfast, you can't get Chef Mickey's, Topolino's, or any of the other Fab Five type breakfasts with the characters you want, check out Hollywood and Vine. That was pretty good. And then the last thing, Leslie, I don't know, did I put it in the notes? Did I tell you the most important part of the Disney trip that had nothing to do with Disney, Leslie, that my son was very excited about
Oh,
getting down to Fort Lauderdale?
you did put it in the notes. Brightline. So trains. Yay for
Yes.
trains.
Yes. Yay for trains. So we took the Brightline down to Fort Lauderdale where we were picking up our cruise. I will talk a little bit about the experience. It was really straightforward. I had a rental car, drove the rental car, dropped it off in Terminal C, and got there about maybe 25 minutes before the train. I could have gotten there 10 minutes before the train, frankly. And then, yeah, you go through a security. Security was a little bit of a mess just because there were no lines. You just kind of like all went to, because it's not like an airport or an airplane. You can bring your liquids and all that stuff. So we just kind of all stuffed our suitcases into a big machine. And then the terminal is nice, but a little crowded. But the train itself, it was really nice. It was a really convenient way to get down to Fort Lauderdale. There's Wi-Fi on there. It ended up being like $60 a ticket. I ended up rebooking my ticket and getting some Brightline credit for the future, much to my son's happiness. So we can ride that again. But it was a convenient way to get down to South Florida. I don't know, like with 5 people, it's kind of questionable, the pricing. I do not like that drive though. If you like, because if the other alternative is to rent a car and to drive down, I don't love it. I thought Brightline was a much nicer way to go down. It also happened to be the day of the Argentina-Colombia Copa America final, which was happening in Miami that day. So there was a lot of Colombia jerseys. I don't think I have an accurate idea of how busy the train normally is because the train was pretty much full, but I know it was just obvious a lot of people were going down to Miami for the day. So that were the main things that we experienced. It was a great trip overall with my son. We spent a lot of time at the pool at the beach club where we were staying, and we had a great time together. And yeah, that was went to Tepa and Ito again. Still really enjoyed that. That was good, but good trip overall. Let's hit a break, and then when we come back, let's talk about some reasons why summer might be the time you want to go to Disney. All right, so as I mentioned, Leslie, on this trip, a lot of things went right. I'll say that the weather was pretty much perfect. We only had like one thunderstorm. It was very short. It was hot and humid, but it wasn't the week before. It had been over 100 degrees in terms of the heat index or whatever. So that was better. And the crowds were low. I think the crowds were higher this week just going off of Genie Plus / Lightning Lane multipass pricing. And so the crowds were lower too. Those are the caveats. Ideal conditions. That being said, I think that I have decided that summer is a much better time to go than I've been giving it credit for. This is 2 summers in a row that we've been in July. Last year was for the Galactic Star Cruiser, but we spent a couple days in the parks before the Galactic Star Cruiser. So let's talk a little bit about these reasons, Leslie. Now, the first one I kind of hit, right? Lower crowds, shorter lightning lanes. I was surprised because I had gone at spring break, and every time I entered a lightning lane, the lightning lane was backed up for like 10, 15 minutes. And sometimes the lightning lane was backed up past where you enter the lightning lane. There was none of that on this trip. It's like enter a lightning lane. And, I said, my son started saying, oh, this is a lightning lane walk on, right? Which is damning with faint praise and from the mouth of babes at the same time, right? The fact that, that's how you think a lightning lane should work. But we would walk straight up to the merge point. And so that was pretty awesome. That's something I have not seen in Disney for a long time because I've been going February break, spring break, in the fall. All those times, I haven't seen that at all. And, in my experience, at least this time in summer, that was pretty great.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that's something that folks who are newer to Disney don't realize, that there really is a difference in those lightning lanes, and it makes all the difference, right? I mean, we know that like even time of day matters, right? Morning, those lightning lanes are more of a walk on. As midday, that's when you're most likely to get like the backup and have to wait, like, or after a breakdown, have to wait for a really long time. But that really does add up over the course of a day. If you're saving 5 or 10 minutes in every lightning lane that you're standing in, that allows you to get a lot more rides. So thumbs up to the lower crowds. I hear you. I'm skeptical about my summertime trips just because I hate being hot. And it does sound like you had pretty ideal weather for July in Orlando. So I guess we should add one other thing to this list. And this is something that I know well, having grown up in Alabama, an advantage to summertime in the South. The pools are warm. They're like bathwater warm, right?
When you say it like that, you're saying it like it's a bad thing. But it's actually it's nice. And it's not only that the pools are warm, but the air around the pools are warm, or maybe the way to say it is you don't get cold when you get out of the pool. Since my son is 9 now, he can spend more time, like he can stay up later. It was awesome being at the pool. I mean, beach club pool, Stormalong Bay, really nice pool. But like from 8 to like 9:30, just a lovely time to be at the pool. The sun was still out, like the sun was kind of setting, and then the fireworks go off at 9. It's not as crowded. We can hang out on the lazy river and not fight for floats and stuff like that. The slide was still open until 9 usually on most nights. We had a really great time just hanging out at the pool every night. So it's not that the water is warm, it's that everything is warm and we can enjoy it a lot more than, I guess I'm like exposing my Northeast bias here. Like we can only get in the pool like 2 weeks out of the entire year without being freezing when you get out. And even then it's not possible, but I really enjoyed that. My son really enjoyed that too. We spent a lot of time at the pool.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that my family enjoyed the nighttime pool break, especially like on arrival day, something like that, because we, as you know, spend a lot of our time in the parks. But that is really nice, and that's something that you can't get a lot of other places. We also can't get that in Northern California. Too chilly here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I've been in San Francisco in August and people are wearing like heavy down jackets. It's just crazy. I know that's the wind effect or whatever, but still. All right. The next reason that you may want to consider visiting Disney in the summer is there were multiple sales this summer. There was like a Disney Plus free dining for a while, and then there was a room sale. They currently have the ticket sale where like if you don't need to park hop, they have the 4-day Park Magic ticket, which is only $300, and then the 3-day Park Magic ticket, which is even cheaper. I think no, I got the 4-day price wrong, but still the tickets are cheaper than the normal tickets. So summer has obviously, going along with the low crowds, been a low time. Disney has been putting a lot of things on sale because of that. That has made summer one of the more economical times to go. Maybe not the most economical time to go, but definitely up there. And so the sales and the prices make summer a time that you might want to consider going. Now, right now, we're not going to see sales for summer 2025, but I would bet a decent amount of money on us seeing them eventually, probably like January, February next year.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, you can book something, and if the sale happens, you can modify into that. So I think it's a good reason to hold something for summer if you're even considering it, to just have that ability to modify into it and have it kind of blocked out on your calendar.
Yeah, the blocking out on the calendar is like the thing I need the most. Next reason, summer, obviously, our Earth is tilted towards the sun so that we get more sunlight. Science. Of course, that's why it's hotter. And we have said before, I love the parks at night. It's a really great place to be at night. When the sun goes down, you can enjoy the parks at night when it's cooler still. But I really did enjoy having the extra sunlight hours, because I'm comparing it to the winter in January, when you go back to the hotel for a nap or to rest and you hit the parks at, even if you get back at like 5:30 or 6, it's getting dark already. And it just mentally, it just feels like the day is ending. Whereas in the summer, you go back to the parks at 5:30 or 6, it feels like you still have like so much time ahead of you. And there are typically longer park hours in the summer. Sometimes in the winter, parks close at 8 o'clock. And so I really appreciated having that extra sunlight, even though it's a double-edged sword with the heat.
Yeah, I like the longer days as well. I mean, there's science to this as well, right? Human beings and how we respond to daylight. And there's a reason seasonal depression is a thing in the wintertime. And like that carries over to just the energy you have for the parks and sort of your body, the way your body's responding. So I do feel like in the summertime, and that's true. This is true for me no matter where I go. Like we were just in Europe, in Scandinavia, up in like Scandinavia, they have really long days, and then you just feel like, oh yeah, I can have dinner at 10 o'clock or whatever. Less of that in Florida, but still more of that in the summertime. And I am loving the science teacher sciencing here, sort of.
Yeah, sort of. I got it like all half right. So, real science people, please don't come at me. I didn't put this on the list, but that reminded me that yes, summer is super hot, but it also that forces you to slow down and take breaks. And I guess the way to say it is because of the heat of the summer, you end up pacing yourself, or we found that we ended up pacing ourselves better. And so that we paced ourselves in a way that the heat didn't affect us as much. Whereas on a winter day, I might rope drop and then just stay there till park close. You just can't do that in the summer, or you don't want to do that in the summer. It just ends up being miserable. That led to a more enjoyable experience overall. I guess I should put another caveat out that like after Tiana's Bayou adventure, I told my son we could do whatever he wants. And so we were going at his pace and his weird, his weird choices, but still like we were able to get a lot done and still went back to the pool to rest and all that. And because of the summer, we were able to do that. I mean, I guess in the winter you don't even want to go back to the pool and rest because you may be too cold unless you're from New England like us, which we can do it.
Yeah, that's right. So, last reason you have on your list that you preferred summer, and I'm actually curious to hear exactly how this played out. More newbies. I guess the people who don't know Disney go during their summer vacation from school. So, right?
Yeah, this is the most anecdotal of my anecdotal reasons, but it just really felt like people didn't know what they were doing. I thought there was multiple positive aspects of that. Number one, it just felt like everyone was having a good time. I guess like, we're in the Disney social media community. There's a lot of stuff that people complain about and get upset about. I was talking to a guy in the Tron line and he was like, "Oh, this is just so cool." And he was just like enjoying it. And, we were grousing a little bit about, I can't remember, some lightning lane or standby line Disney like finicky thing, right? We were grousing a little bit about that, but overall, he just seemed like he was just having such a great time because he hadn't been there before. We always forget the magic, I'm sorry to use that word, but like just the product that Disney puts out there that people who don't go to the parks all the time really enjoy. So there was a positive vibe from people from that. Because a lot of people seem newer, they also didn't seem to, Leslie, we don't understand the Lightning Lane multi-pass system yet, but once we do understand it, we're going to be able to take a lot of advantage of it. If you're at the parks, let's say you go to the parks on, I don't know, like a race weekend or something. Most of those people are going to know which attractions to get first, when to pick up attractions when they like appear, all that kind of stuff. When you're there in the summer with people who haven't been there before, they don't really know. And they frankly don't really care. And so you can take advantage of all those, every single edge that you can get is magnified a little bit when you're around a lot of new people. And then the other thing I noticed with the new people is, I guess, just their confusion. Again, just gives you, it's a lightning lane to everything because everyone else is confused and wandering around. Even stuff like how to get out of the park. Like you just see people like wandering around confused, or maybe they're just enjoying the ambiance, but you can just be super efficient, and we really enjoyed that. Oh, the other thing that we did that I forgot to mention was like we rented a stroller, and I saw that people were like waiting in line every day to pick up their stroller, but you don't need to do that. You just bring your receipt, and it's just stuff like that. When you know things that newer guests don't know, you're just able to, it's not exactly cutting them, but it's filling in the space that they should have known to fill in.
Fair enough. And, I will say, this sounds a little bit like, oh, those suckers were we're taking advantage. But I will say, it is really nice to be around somebody who's new to Disney and see like how they're excited about it. And I love standing in line when I especially when I'm on a solo trip by myself and I'll be standing in line and I'll hear like a family next to me talking about some strategy thing that they're getting very wrong. And I'm able to then explain something to them in line. Like we just get to talking and then they're so grateful. And then they've like, their day has just been made better. So I guess get that personal satisfaction. I do try to not view them entirely as like the suckers and instead as like people who just need to be brought to where we are, and then they can have an even more magical time, but they're already having a great time.
Leslie, don't put words in my mouth.
I heard it. I heard it, Joe. I heard it. That we're nice people, I promise.
There's always an edge. If you don't recognize the sucker, then you are the sucker. No, that's a good point, Leslie. I can say this because I don't know if this is going to be true for Lightning Lane Multipass, but Genie Plus, I think we talked about it on an episode, but maybe not. Genie Plus had a 2-hour grace period, unadvertised 2-hour grace period, and I was waiting for the monorail. Of course, remember, we were doing everything my son wanted to do. I was waiting for the monorail, and there was this larger family. It was like 9 or 10 people, obviously 3 family units. Was clear to me that there was no real shot caller, which, as we talked about in the big groups episode, you need a cruise director when you have a group that big. And they were like, oh, but we have, I didn't hear what ride they were talking about, but they're like, well, we have this for 5 minutes from now. So when we get to Magic Kingdom, we're going to have to run. And they were kind of arguing about like having to run there. And then like, should we change our lightning lane and stress and blah, blah, blah. And I just couldn't help myself. I was like, well, actually, but I was like, I couldn't help it over here. And I told them, you have a 2-hour grace period. You're going to be fine. Please don't rush. There was kids involved. They weren't part of the argument, but there was like kids involved too. I was like, please don't rush everyone. Just get there when you get there. If someone really wants to go, because I think someone really wanted to do that attraction. I was like, if someone really wants to do that attraction, you don't have to stress out about them missing it. And they were thankful to hear that. And so it's always nice to help people and to spread the magic a little bit. The last reason, Leslie, that you brought up, which is a good one, is, and I guess a lot of the reasons stem from this, summer break. This is the time that you can go and you don't need to pull your kids out of school, and you can go for a longer time and enjoy yourself and not worry about, school and all that kind of stuff. So just the fact that schedule wise, it works a lot better is a great reason to go in the summer.
Yeah, what's old is new again, because that's when we used to go when I was a kid, because that was the only time that mom and dad could get off of work and we were out of school. So, I guess, I don't know, like millennials, Gen Xers, we've been pulling our kids from school or having these weirder school calendars that we've been working around. But I'm tied to the calendar now. So it's going to be summer or it's going to be winter break for me, which I don't think I'm going to go then. So crowded.
Yeah, not sure about that one.
Yeah,
Maybe
for
I'll
sure.
have to go. Maybe I'll have to go. Maybe I just, every time I go, I'm just so Disney pilled that every time I go, I'm just like, oh, this is the best time to go because I'm there.
You're having a good time. That's good. It's the magic has not worn off, Joe. Why don't we close this out with a Disney do or don't?
All right. My Disney do is to definitely do form your own opinions about things. Hollywood and Vine. One reason why I never went there is because it had terrible reviews for the longest time. Within the last year or two, it has gotten better reviews, which is why I ended up checking it out. But, I think there's so many different opinions out there, and it's great to ask people for their opinions. People, of course, we have our podcast, we have our opinions. People ask us for our opinions all the time. But ultimately, Disney has so much stuff in it. Not everyone is going to enjoy every single thing. I can't remember, like, people have talked, people swear by the fireworks dessert parties, for example. And that's just, now you're going to have to make me cut to your face on the YouTube, Leslie. But that's just not something that Leslie and I appreciate, right? If you're listening to Disney Deciphered, if you only listen to Disney Deciphered, you'd be like, fireworks parties, I shouldn't do that. Well, we're not the only people. Like, your family and your family's opinions are very different. I've had plenty of clients who have booked the dessert party, or I've helped them book the dessert party, the fireworks dessert party, and they've absolutely loved it. Make sure you're forming your own opinions. I would say take a risk. Try something that someone, if you have the time to do it, try something that someone did not recommend, or maybe even something that someone said don't do. Preferably something that doesn't cost money. But try it out, because there's so many different things and you never know what you're going to enjoy at Disney that other people may not enjoy. Using my son as an example again, the kid loves the friendship boats. Why? It's hot in there. Okay. They move so slowly. I could walk faster. The Skyliner's right there. I don't know, but he loves the friendship boats. Loves to watch them. Loves when we get to catch a ride on them. We'll wait 10 minutes to ride one for no reason. What are you going to do? People love different things. So try different things when you're at Disney World.
That's right. And we've taken that advice. We need to call this like the Monsters Inc. laugh floor premise or something, because we did it.
The Monsters Inc. laugh floor corollary. Yes.
Theorem. So we did it. And I got the sheer joy of seeing Joe embarrassed in front of the entire crowd. So Maybe it wasn't worth it for you, but it was worth it for me.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Let's get out of here. So, yeah, that was our summer trip. Next episode, we'll talk about my time with my family on the Disney Magic. But we had a really great time, my son and I, at Disney World. Tiana's is great. Check it out next time you're at Walt Disney World. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And other than that, Leslie, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I'll see you buying one of those crazy contraptions that blows air up your shirt that Len Tessa talked about on Disney Dish, because you're going to go in the summer.
Thanks, Joe.